In a private debate group, an atheist made a post challenging believers to present their case using logic and reason. He wanted real evidence and not just what he calls faith. He tried to seem diplomatic in the post that he was open-minded to change his mind with good evidence, but he came across very confident as if he knew all these arguments already. Listen closely as we dialogue this exchange. I have your post pulled up here. It was pretty short, and you have a bunch of replies. I noticed that the replies, a lot of the time, are just nothing. And if you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of replies, I mean, it's kind of hard to keep up with all that. So I think it's easier to talk point to point than it is to read a long thing that ends up being meaningless. And that's kind of why I ended up not doing as many Facebook exchanges with comments as I used to.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's where I'm thinking. When you say show me evidence, not just faith, we can start from this point, but I don't think it's going to just be can I convince you, because that's kind of how you framed. You said I challenge you to convince me, and the reason I'm not going to frame it this way is because I don't consider like you personally or any individual person as like what convinces them as the standard. It should just be about the arguments. It shouldn't be about what convinces you or convinces me, because what if bad arguments convince me? That doesn't really prove anything, right? So what does or doesn't convince you isn't as important to me as the arguments. So in theory, what should convince us are good arguments, and not convincing us is also bad arguments. That's the way it should work. Now, obviously, we are imperfect people, so our ability to weigh the arguments could be flawed, but we can at least know that that's what we should try to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting from there, we're going to look for common grounds, and then once we reach, which we will, once we reach points where they diverge, that's where we can move forward. Okay, so common ground point number one is, are we both considered scientific realists? I would consider myself a scientific realist, and what I mean by that and what's commonly meant by that is that our beliefs about the natural world, like, you know, stars, galaxies, planets, all those things are actually real and exist independently of our minds. They are not merely useful descriptive models, but they actually objectively exist. Would you say you agree with that?
So for that, so like when it comes to science, it's important to understand honesty when it comes to science, because that's what science's grounds are based off of is honesty. So like what I would say, I would say that stars are objectively true, but I just want you to understand I'm being ambiguous for a reason here. I'm being big and very ambiguous about it because my understanding of science might be what you don't understand about science is where I'm getting at. I'm not trying to what is I got back from a walk, so I'm trying to think here, but I'm not trying to imply that that's what you're thinking, and I'm not trying to say that's where you're going at, but I just want you to understand that there's going to be more. I'm showing you that there's an iceberg coming up.
Okay, well, what about this? Can we both agree that Earth is 4.6 billion years old?
4.6 billion years old.
Like, that's the current best evidence from the science of the age of the Earth. Is that true, independent of whether I believe it or not? That's kind of, I'm trying to get to scientific realism first.
So like when it comes to that, I never really cared about how old the Earth is, so I'll have to look into that because I don't know how old the Earth actually is, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
Well, the point of that question wasn't so much to actually adjudicate that specific fact, it's to see if we both hold to scientific realism. Let me try a different one. The moon is approximately 250,000 miles away. Kilometers. It'd be 180,000 miles. Would you say you believe that's true, independent of your belief?
I wouldn't know, to be honest, because I never really was interested in finding out how far the moon is.
Okay, let's try a different one. Dinosaurs really existed in the past and are not a big conspiracy. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I definitely believe that dinosaurs are real.
Okay, so that's like a fact. Like, it's like, oh, that's the fact we're aware of. Okay,
Yeah.
does you believing that they really existed, is that just a projection of your mind, or did they exist before you were born, whether or not you believe it? That's scientific realism.
So for me, we have evidence of fossilized bones to prove that dinosaurs existed.
Right, and more importantly, that the proof and the evidence is not just a useful construct, but it's actually objectively real. Would you say you believe that?
What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by objectively real? Is that what
Yeah,
you're asking? Okay.
yeah.
So the word objective means independent of the subject, which would be you. So dinosaurs exist whether or not you believe in them, whereas certain things depend on your belief in them, like your taste in music, whether you think a song is good or
Oh, okay, okay.
you know,
All right. Um, but yeah, I think that dinosaurs were real at one point.
okay, and the point is that's just a sample, but for scientific realism, whether or not we are correct in our beliefs, whatever is true about the world in nature is true whether or not we believe it. That's the point I'm trying to get at. Would you agree
Yeah,
with that point?
so you're trying to use a naturalist point of view. Is that what you're trying to do?
Well, the position is called scientific realism. It's some people when they are talking about very high level like metaphysics and stuff, they will end up being skeptical around things they don't need to be skeptical on. So I'm trying to get that out of the way early. Like for
Oh, okay.
example, Andromeda is actually out there is 2.5 million light years, or dinosaurs really existed, or the Earth actually goes around the sun. Like these aren't
Oh,
things we
oh,
have to
so
be.
this is a litmus test.
Well, no, it's we're trying to find common ground. So I'm starting with
Oh,
the largest scale things. I'm going to narrow it down as we talk.
okay.
So I'll just for it seems like you're saying yes that the natural
Yeah.
world's actually real. Okay. Okay, the next one is similar. It's called philosophical realism. So things that aren't necessarily intrinsically science based, but like the past actually happened and it's not just a figment of your imagination or other minds than your own exist, stuff like that. You could group them
Okay.
together. Okay. The next one, actually, I'll save that one for later. Do you have any for me before I keep going? Because we should do this back and forth. Do you have any common ground you want to find with me?
No, I'm just curious. That's all I am.
Okay, so are there beliefs that you do have around the subject, or are you completely open minded?
I am completely open-minded because, like you said about the science thing, and that's why I left that it's so ambiguous and vague. So,
The science thing. Okay, so let's try to get some things out of the way that are not good. Um, you've already had quite a few responses.
yeah.
What would you say is the primary response or argument that you think is not good?
Um, I think misrepresenting your opponent is a really bad argument to use because what's the point of fighting somebody if you don't know your point? Because I'm from the military, and something that we learn is in order to defeat your opponent, you need to know your opponent, and if you don't know your opponent, you already lost. So if somebody is turning like an atheist or a Christian or any type of denomination of Christianity and trying to create a straw man about it, that's a bad way to argue because it just goes to show that you're uneducated about what you're dealing with, and it just makes you look uncharismatic. It makes you look like you what is it? It doesn't look good on your character, pretty much.
I see. Okay, so the idea is for me not to misrepresent you. Now, I don't know what you believe. Is there something you want to start me with so I don't misrepresent you?
So I'm an atheist, meaning that I'm a skeptic until there is some kind of empirical evidence to prove that either a god, goddess, or deity or anything of that sort exists.
Okay.
And I also recognize Christianity, definitely Catholicism, as more of a philosophy standpoint than it is a religious standpoint.
Okay. There's obviously going to be a lot of points to touch on, so we'll try to narrow it down and be specific. And we probably won't cover everything because of time. The first thing you said there is until there's sufficient evidence. So who decides if the evidence is sufficient? Do you decide that because you're the one trying to believe it or not? Or are you saying there's some judge that once they decided? Like, what do you mean when you say sufficient evidence?
Going by conventional logic, like the epistemology or whatever it's called,
Okay.
with logic and reasoning is the best way to provide evidence for something.
Now, are you confident in your ability to assess whether something is logical or not?
Yes,
Okay, so
yes,
you're good with that. So if I present something that uses modus ponens, you would be able to tell if that's valid or not.
yes.
Okay, because that is what I'd like to go down, and I think that's the direction we're going to get. Now, you mentioned two things. You mentioned Catholicism, Christianity, and then you mentioned something like about God or something.
Yeah.
If you are an atheist, it doesn't make a lot of sense to start with a specific religion if you don't even think there is a God. So I think we're going to leave religion aside for now, and we'll just focus on theism. That makes the most sense to
Well,
me.
it sounds like you're framing here, but like, let's discuss about religion. You know that's what this is probably all about. It's how we met each other.
Well, theism is still a belief about God. It just doesn't necessarily start with a particular religion because there's a lot of additional premises you have to go through to get to a
Yeah.
specific religion.
But what was it that you were trying to say? What were you talking about? Like, it doesn't make sense?
What doesn't make sense?
No, you were saying that it doesn't make sense for an atheist to
Oh, okay.
claim.
Right. Okay. So, like, take a Christian for example. A Christian has a lot of specific beliefs they have, but they start on the belief that God already exists. So, like,
Yeah,
if someone was trying, which a lot of people in the comment section try to do, if they're trying to argue from, say, the Bible, there's a bunch of steps they're skipping to get to that point. But if you don't even think God exists, then you need to start there. It's like an order of logic, which is what you said you wanted, right? You wanted a logical order of things.
yeah. But talking about God doesn't make him exist. It just means he's a
Right.
concept.
That's right. That's so we should start with do we have good
Oh, okay,
reason
I
to
see.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
So there's really
I
no
see. I
point
see.
in getting into specific religion doctrines that presuppose God exists. Rather, you need to go back to this beginning point, start there, and then you can work your way up to the other
All
parts.
right.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're saying, if I understood you right, if we're using the more colloquial use of the word atheist, that you're just not convinced yet that there's some kind of
Yeah.
God or something. Okay. So if we're using it in that colloquial sense, you have a sort of balanced state. You're saying, I don't have enough evidence to say that God, there is God or there's no God. You're kind of in a neutral state. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
Okay. So when we're talking about something convincing you, this goes back to the beginning. I'm not honestly as interested in what convinces you because I don't know what convinces you is the right thing, but rather, can you refute good arguments? Maybe you can. And so there's a lot of arguments I think aren't good, right? So we're going to skip all of those, which I think are probably most of the
Oh.
arguments you're
Oh.
reading.
So you're trying to stay away from God. You just want to debate.
No, okay, the word argument, I don't mean like a debate. An argument like a syllogism or a logical point.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
like I could present arguments that dinosaurs existed 66 million years ago. I don't mean
Uh,
debate. I
I know.
mean,
I know it's non sequitur, but do you believe in dinosaurs?
yes,
Uh,
I think dinosaurs existed 66 million years ago and during the
Are
Cretaceous
you
they were extinct.
are, are you a millennial?
I think I'm right at the edge of a millennial age, yeah.
Okay, because that's when dinosaurs were very popular. Was in like the early '90s
We'll see
with
that I try to
with
be as persuaded as
Jurassic
I
Park.
can of the best evidence we have. That's kind of where I go.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, so anyway, when it comes to an argument, I didn't read all the comments, but my impression were a lot of the ones that try to present a reason. I don't think those are the best arguments from the standpoint of neutrality. They're making a lot of
Yeah.
assumptions. So what I'd try to do is find things we already agree on, like logic and scientific realism, etc.
Yeah.
Use the things we agree on to present an argument and see if that works. See if we can make progress there.
All right.
So I think we'll try to start with one. Let me pull this up real quick. Okay. So are you familiar with basic modus ponens syllogisms? This is usually what people use. It's a premise one, premise two, premise three, however many you have, then conclusion. And
Oh, mythos.
yeah, so I think most people use modus ponens. There's also modus tollens. There's a couple different forms. I think I might use modus tollens so I can have less steps. But I'm trying to think of one based on the common ground we have already that would make the most sense to you. So let me think of it this way. When you're talking about evidence, do you currently
Yeah.
think, based on the evidence, that it is reasonable to believe that extraterrestrial life exists somewhere in the cosmos? Do you think that's a reasonable proposition?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Why do you think that's a reasonable proposition?
I think it's reasonable because there is evidence, even though it is very vague evidence, there is evidence supporting that there's extraterrestrials.
Okay. So let's start from this starting place, because this is how I think of it. I don't think of evidence for God as proof or confirmatory like we would have for dinosaurs. I think
Oh,
of
so you
it.
have like a Gnostic
No, no, no.
viewpoint?
No, I consider myself theist. I'm convinced God exists, but I don't base it on conclusive proof the same way we have dinosaurs. I use it more
So,
like
so
what
you're
you
not
said.
so you're not an apologist.
When you say apologist, you mean trying to defend my beliefs?
Yeah, somebody that's trying to defend logic by using God to defend logic.
What you might be thinking presuppositional apologetics. No, I'm not. I'm not that. Where they
Oh, okay.
presuppose God. No, I don't do that. So
Okay, that's good.
so remember what you said about extraterrestrials. So you say we may not have like the same kind of proof we have with more confirmed things like relativity or dinosaurs, but there's good reasons to think they're out there. I think of
Yeah,
God the same way. We don't have direct proof like because I just don't think that's how God would work. But I think there are good reasons, even if there's not a sort of what you said empirical proof. We don't have any empirical evidence that there's extraterrestrials, but we have solid reasons to think they're likely out there. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay, so I want you to think in that frame of your mind, not in the conclusive proof frame, because if you thought that way about extraterrestrials, you shouldn't believe in them either, but you do. And so use that same type of reasoning that I'm going to start presenting. Does that make sense?
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, do you feel more comfortable with using scientific reasons, or do you feel more comfortable with using more logical reasons?
Let's do both.
Okay. Which one would you like to start with first?
Uh, First of all, I'd like to know what it is that you're trying to do. Like, what
I'm
are you trying to frame up
my
here?
my attempt here is to present a list of reasons, not necessarily conclusive proof, but reasons why I think it's reasonable to conclude that there is a God.
Okay.
And so I think those could be broadly in. You can use certain scientific reasons, or you can use certain logical reasons. So,
Okay.
which one do you
So,
want to start with?
okay, I see what you're trying to do. So, like, since I don't have faith in God, since I have faith in aliens, that is going to be the opponent for the argument.
Well, what I was doing with that is the type of reasoning process you're using to believe in aliens is the same type I
Yeah.
want you to use for God.
Oh, so you
That's what I'm
want me
talking about.
to? So you want me to argue for God?
No, I'm going to do that. What I'm saying is when I give you my reasons, I want you to think of it in terms, the same terms that you think of with aliens, not the ones you think of with
Okay.
dinosaurs, because those aren't the
Oh,
same.
okay. So you're trying to share a common perception is what you're trying to do.
Well, because I think a lot of time when people think of God and they want proof, they want like God shows up and talks to me or something like that. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking like you haven't seen aliens. You haven't. We don't have any residual evidence of aliens. We don't even have. We have nothing, right? SETI has produced nothing in 60 years, but a lot of people still find it reasonable to believe they are out there, with for a combination of other reasons. And I'm saying belief in God is like that. It's not like here's the bone, I found it. It's not like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I pulled that out is because you already understand this reasoning because you use it to believe in aliens. So this isn't a foreign concept to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was doing after that, since you agreed to that, is I said the next two spheres that the reasons usually fall under are more scientific based reasons, and then the others are more logical based reasons. Now, they're all logical in a sense, but some of them don't use any science and some of them do. So I was wondering which one you wanted to start with.
Science or what was the other one?
Just
Uh,
logic.
oh, just logic. Okay. All right. And what are you wanting me to do?
Just pick one of those spheres to start with, and then I'll present some reasons, and then we can see what you think of them.
Oh, spheres?
Like two types of evidence.
Oh, two types of evidence for aliens?
No, so we're talking about theism, whether there is a God. We're past
Yeah.
the aliens thing. I was just the aliens was an analogy.
Oh, okay. Spheres of God?
Spheres of evidence, types of evidence.
Oh, what kind of evidence is used to prove God?
Okay, so I'm offering you something. I'm saying I have a list of evidences, and
Oh, okay.
they fall into two types. They fall under science or they fall under logic. I'm saying which one do
Okay.
you want to start with?
Oh, let's go with science.
Okay, science. So, how familiar are you with like Big Bang Theory, astrophysics? Do you have any some you've heard of some of it? Sound familiar?
Yeah. So I'm familiar with astrophysics, Big Bang. I heard stuff in discussion, but that's about it.
Yeah. Now, so neither of us are like professional scientists, so we don't have to try to
Yeah,
adjudicate.
we definitely don't have authority in science. Yes.
Right, right. So what we have access to is the same thing we would have access to for anything else, like dinosaurs, etc. It's like we don't have authority in any of those things equally.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone in the comments offered this one,
Okay.
but a lot of theists of different kinds will try to use the Big Bang as definitive proof that the universe had a beginning, etc. I don't do that, although I do think it is decent evidence. And one of the main points is other astrophysicists that do have authority. So, have you heard of the age of the universe? Does that sound familiar?
No.
So, today, and if you were to Google it or look it up on ChatGPT or open up an astronomy textbook, any of those, it puts the current estimated age of the universe at approximately 13.8 billion years, billion Earth years.
Okay.
Now, the reason that matters is because that's it's a big number, but it's not infinity. Although people used to think prior to Einstein that the universe was infinitely old.
Yeah.
So after Einstein's theories led, after, and Hubble's discoveries led to the Big Bang, they were able to trace the time backwards with the equations, and that's where we get that number. Okay,
Okay.
so that's what the Big Bang is. All right. So instead of the universe always existing, it turned out that the universe didn't always exist, that it had a beginning 13.8 billion years ago.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the science. We'll move past that. Now, to put it into an argument that you said you were familiar with, the disjunctive syllogism,
Mhm.
that's the scientific premise. the only other premise that a lot of other people use is whether or not a beginning to space and time implies anything. So let's go over basic principles. I was going to ask you about philosophical realism. That gets very technical, so I don't want to get too deep into that because I might lose your attention there, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, have you ever heard of the principle of sufficient reason?
No, this is the first time ever hearing about it.
Okay, it's been around in various names. That name, I believe, came from Leibniz in what, the 16th century. Oh, sufficient reason. Let me check. So that came, yeah, Leibniz, whenever he lived. I forget when he lived, but it took various forms. Basically, what it says is if something is true or if something is real or exists, there's like a reason or causal explanation why. And there's a variety of reasons for that, but it's kind of what lets us do science. We don't just assume, oh, there's dinosaur bones, there's no reason it's here. There's a reason it's here. You know, the sediments put it under, it fossilized, etc. Like there's reasons for things. Okay. So if you haven't heard of that, I'm going to try and think of a different way to explain it because I can't refer to his language. Let's see. Do you think it would be reasonable to believe something could begin to exist for no reason at all?
For something to say that again?
Do you think it would be reasonable to believe that something could begin to exist, but for no reason at all?
For no reason?
Yeah. This is
For
what
something to
this is what the
okay.
principle is suggesting.
I think there is a reason, yeah.
So if something begins, yeah, okay. So I actually would agree with that. But now, if you're following, the hard question is not going to be for you. If something beginning has a reason or a cause why, then right now, with these two premises, if space and time begins, why would that happen? If there is no God, why would that happen for you? A better question is, how could it if there's nothing else?
Oh, why would it?
Yes.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't know why. I don't really care about the why, to be honest with you.
So we could adopt that attitude for everything, right? And then we wouldn't care to
Yeah.
learn anything, right?
No, no, I understand that, but like, don't. I wouldn't generalize it as like a thing because the thing about it is, uh, what is it? So like being hyper focused on that. What like I understand that we're trying to have a nice argument or whatever and have it something philosophical, but like what I'm trying to understand is why does that have to do with anything? Like why does that even matter?
So what this argument is called, and there's various forms of it, is the cosmological argument, sometimes called a causal argument. They take different forms, but it's the same family of arguments. Okay, let's go through it. Right now, the best theory of life is that in very proto existing Earth, a cell formed and then evolved, right? Do you think the first cell was made out of a cell?
The first cell was made from a cell?
Yeah, did the first cell come from a cell?
I don't know anything about that.
Well, no. Well, think about it. The first cell, did it come from another cell?
Yeah, I don't understand what that has to do with anything. Or,
Okay,
like,
so we're going to apply the
what?
same logic if we figure this out to my first question. Okay, so you know how cells reproduce, right? Cells make new cells, cells make new cells. Okay. But you
Yeah.
go backwards enough, eventually what the science is telling us is that the first cell had to come out of other natural processes. Like they amalgamized from other chemicals. But is it even possible for the first cell to come from a previous cell? I mean, the answer should be no. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been the first cell. There was a cell that preceded it. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So the
Yeah,
what does
I
that
can
make?
understand that. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's just a basic logic point. It wouldn't be the first cell if it came from another cell before it. Okay. Now the point is, if you understand that, apply that to the first question I asked you about the universe. If space and time begin, and all matter and energy begin at the Big Bang, there's no space, time, matter, and energy that it came from if it was the beginning. Does that make sense?
So you're trying to rationalize the beginning?
Well, the beginning's already established by the evidence, which we covered first. So
Okay.
if we want to go
Because
back
there's
and,
evidence. Because you believe in the evidence of the Big Bang.
well, and I presented it, you seem to be okay with it. Are you wanting to go back and
Yeah.
deny it?
No, no. I'm just confused as to where you're getting at with this. Is all.
Well, I'm trying to present an argument. So
Oh,
the
okay, okay.
the classic theistic construction of God is the first cause or the existing spaceless, timeless, etc. And what I'm trying to show, what I'm trying to go one step at a time with you, is that if each step is true, then whatever the universe came from is the spaceless, timeless, etc. Now, you don't have to call it God if you don't like that word, but we're describing it the same way.
We're describing it as God. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, it depends on if you deny a premise. Now, it doesn't seem like this one's connecting with you, so I think I'm going to give you a different one. This one's not working. Okay.
Yeah.
When I say the word, we're talking about God, I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Obviously, we don't mean a humanoid being with a beard, etc. Do you know what the typical theistic concept of God is? Do you have a basic idea of that?
You talking about holy divinity, finding oneself in the world, type of thing?
No, no, like an actual. So obviously, everyone has some different ideas, but the generic conception that's common among theism, it's kind of the difference between like a what would you call it? Like a god-like figure, like we might think of as Thor. So Thor physically exists, has a body, exists in
Oh,
time
yeah.
and space.
Oh, let's use Zeus
Or
because
Zeus, yeah. Let's use
yeah,
Zeus. So Zeus lives in Olympus or whatever. He has a body. He had a wife. He has a son. You know, he had
yeah.
his wife had a son for him. His body has like ridges, right? He exists in space. He has an age. Things like this. Okay, so this God, so I'm using quotes, quote unquote God, is more of like a superhumanoid being.
Okay,
Okay,
the
when
supreme being.
right, theism is different. So classical theism is uses the same word that we translate into God, but it's not referring to some physical being that exists in the universe. It's talking about something that.
Well, well, when it comes to theism, there's also other religions that come in play. But if you're talking about just Christianity, that's in the playing field, then yeah, I could agree with that.
Well, I was talking what's often, it doesn't matter what we call it. It's typically referred to as classical theism. So religions that hold to classical theism would include Christianity. It would include Baha'ism. It would include versions of Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Islam, and then deism, which isn't really a religion. So classical theism as a concept itself isn't like a religious concept, but a lot of religions believe it, including the ones I listed.
Okay.
So what it refers to is a sort of logical ultimate. So it's like the thing that exists that necessarily undergirds everything else that exists. So it created everything that's real. So, like, for example, the universe existed a certain time ago, but not before that. So it's not something else in the universe that would explain it because there was no universe. You hit a point where it stops. That was the first argument I was trying to give. But
Okay.
I think starting with the right concept of God is what gets a lot of people off because they think of it like you said, like almost like a super Zeus or something. But that's not what people are talking about. They're talking about the transcendent creator of everything. Now,
Yeah.
some people believe in a sort of universal reality, I guess. They don't call it God, they don't think of it as God. The only thing that seems to be different is whether whatever the universal reality is, does that have some kind of conscious agency to it, or is it purely impersonal mechanisms? That seems to be where a lot of the breakdown is. So, for example, naturalism believes that only nature exists. There is nothing else other than nature. And so, therefore, it would be impersonal mechanisms that's ultimately what's real. Whereas theism, which is what we're talking about, would say, no, there's an additional element that explains why there is nature. Is this making any sense?
Yeah. Kinda.
So,
I just want to get into the meat and potatoes of it.
okay, so to summarize the first part we talked about, I think the fact that both the science points to a beginning of the universe and that
Mhm.
even before that, it would be reasonable to believe that time had a beginning. The fact that time can have a beginning, I think, implies a timeless reality, which is also what we call God.
Okay.
Now, do you have any reason to refute it or reject that reasoning?
I to be honest, I can't because that sounds like more of a faith thing. I can't deny your faith and something of that sort. Like if that's what you believe in, then I can't really deny that.
Now, if you are using faith that way, do you mean it in the same way you use it for your belief in extraterrestrials?
Yeah.
Okay, but you think your belief in extraterrestrials is rational, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, and so then likewise, would you say what I just said would be rational to believe?
Yeah, if that's what you believe, then yeah, it can be considered rational.
Well, so that would be all I would offer is I would say believing in God is rational. I'm not going to say I can make you believe it because whether you believe something rational is not up
Yeah,
to
no,
me.
no, I don't. What is it? So, like, when it comes to the concept of God, I'm not one of those atheists that they're like, oh, you're delusional, or you have imaginary friends. Like, I'll use that as like a rhetorical thing, but that's not how I believe it at all, because that's disrespectful.
Well, I'm
Especially,
yeah, I understand that.
especially especially like I mentioned before, being a guy with a military background, I dealt with a lot of people from different religions and different cultures. So then I had to understand that we're in a multi, we're in like a melting pot of that, and then that's the best way. Because like I did get into arguments about God, and the only good argument about God is just based on faith.
Oh, I haven't mentioned faith. I've given two or three reasons for the first argument. But
Yeah,
what
no,
what
I
I will say
understand that.
is if someone doesn't want to believe, it's not going to convince them. It's kind of like
Yeah,
extraterrestrials.
yeah, but like you can say that about you, like you don't believe in other gods, you don't believe in Zeus and all that.
So you know you're right, and I wouldn't, and I would be if someone has a good argument, I'll hear them out. The thing is,
Yeah,
when we say the word God, I think if we're thinking something like Zeus or other pagan concepts, this is just
yeah,
a matter of language. I'm talking about the classical theistic construction, which is in the context of the post you made. That's what people believe in there.
yeah.
And
Okay, so you're going by Christianity.
no, they're compatible with all the religions I listed.
Oh, so you're talking about all the Abrahamic
Well, it
religions
would
then,
also include
like
non-religious.
deism
Yeah, it would include some
and
non-religious beliefs like deism.
and,
That's not a religion.
and Hinduism.
Certain forms of Hinduism it would include. So there's different forms of it.
Yeah.
And they all have and this is the bare bones, right? So if you start adding extra things to it, that wouldn't be included in only theism. That's why I mentioned at the very beginning that's extra
Okay.
steps. I'm trying to start from the beginning. Because if
All
you
right.
aren't convinced of theism, then you can't be convinced of any of the religions that believe in theism. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if I were to
Yeah.
argue the other way, that would be the presuppositional apologetics that I don't do. I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
So
And I apologize. It seems like I'm sea-lining. I'm just trying to understand.
so let's think of it this way. Let's use my first point. extraterrestrial life. You think it's reasonable to believe they exist, even without direct proof. It sounds like you're
Yeah.
saying you also think it's reasonable to not believe they exist, right?
Yeah. Because if there's somebody that has evidence to prove that they don't exist, then I'll definitely accept that as proof. Yeah.
Okay, so let's compare that to say dinosaurs. It would not be reasonable to think dinosaurs did not exist, right? Because we do have proof. That's kind of how you
Yeah.
think. Okay, so let's put it this way. There are some things that I think would be reasonable to reject, right? So I think it's reasonable to reject that Earth has two suns, right? If Earth
Yeah.
did have two suns, we would see two suns. But it's not unreasonable to reject extraterrestrials or to accept extraterrestrials because the evidence could swing either way because there's not definitive proof.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you are convinced there are extraterrestrials, right?
Yes.
Even if you don't have proof. Okay. What I'm saying is, I don't think we call that what you're implying as faith, unless that's what you think faith is. Are you saying you have faith in extraterrestrials?
No, I'm saying that I have faith in the understanding of extraterrestrials and understanding as to why we think extraterrestrials are real.
Okay, because this might be where we're either we have common ground or maybe we don't. So it might be on how we
Okay.
use the word faith, because some people use it differently and there's different ways to use it. So
Yeah.
faith can either just be a synonym to the word belief, or it can be used as a sort of I believe it even though I don't have evidence. Which way are you
Yeah.
using it?
Um. What, I would say the first one.
If it's just another word for believe, right?
Yeah.
So you would say you believe in extraterrestrials, but you also believe in dinosaurs, but your reasons
Yeah.
for them are different, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about the faith point then, because we agree. We agree. The word faith can just be used as a synonym for believe, because that's what it means. Okay, so I believe in dinosaurs, and I also believe in God, but I don't believe them for the same type of reasons. So I'm giving you the same answer that you gave me for extraterrestrials. I'm
Okay.
suggesting that belief in God, and I think most people, but not all of them, maybe not most, a lot of people would say the same way. Belief in God is not based on definitive proof, the same way that belief in extraterrestrials are not based on definitive proof. You have a collection of reasons that you say it is therefore reasonable to infer there are extraterrestrials. I'm saying that's the same way with God. You're not going to go find the God signature like you find a dinosaur bone, but a collection of other reasons can let you logically conclude there is a God. That's what, does that make sense?
Mm,
Well, how about you? How about this? How about you walk me through your reasons for extraterrestrials, and I'll show you the parallel. Like, why do you think there are extraterrestrial life out there in the universe?
because there has been physical and observable things that have happened. Roswell, New Mexico, Project Blue Book. They have a lot of information in it, even though a lot of it's not accessible to the public. It's ambiguous enough for it to be evidence, but it could also be not evidence at the same time. But God does not have that same thing. Like it's not God's not tangible by physical evidence. Like he didn't come in with a chariot and then left uh, remnants of a chariot on the ground at all.
Hmm.
And then when it comes to extraterrestrials, like that's what we call them. But until we prove otherwise, we're calling them extraterrestrials because we had a foreign object that got landed onto the ground. So if there's evidence that of something of that sort as extraterrestrial, we have more evidence of that than we do of an actual god.
That's not what I thought you were going to say, so that's interesting. I thought you were going to base it more off the probabilities than unverified. So
Oh,
you're basing it off
oh,
of
oh,
evidence.
are you talking about the argument that if it's such a vast galaxy that we can't be the only ones?
Well, this is what the scientists say, so I thought that's what you were going to say. But you're saying you're basing off like Roswell and things that aren't verifiable.
Oh, I would say that they're verifiable. they're verifiable in a scientific sense because science, when it comes to scientific research, even if we don't know about it, the fact that we have something there for us to use is enough evidence to give us something. When it comes to God, we don't have any type of tangible evidence to prove that God exists.
So if what you're saying is true about, unless you were getting into conspiracies, if what you're saying is true about extraterrestrials, then why hasn't it convinced SETI, the organization designed to find it? Why hasn't it convinced them?
What are you talking about?
So there's an organization called SETI, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. They were founded like in the 60s, I think, 50s, 60s. And
Yeah.
they have not found any hard evidence. And you're saying that we have it and it convinces you.
Yeah,
And you're
that's
saying,
enough evidence.
so it's enough evidence for you, but not enough evidence for SETI. And you're saying that's fine, which is okay. But when someone
Yeah.
else says that they have evidence, so this is what I'm trying to understand, because I thought we were trying to rule out evidence that is unverifiable.
Is it unverifiable though?
Okay, so the evidence you just gave me, you're saying I could verify that, and that would verify aliens? Is that what you're saying?
It's tangible evidence. Yes. If we have objects from something that like a spaceship or something that came from a spaceship, then yeah, that's tangible evidence.
And would this tangible evidence need to be something that is accessible to everyone, and that's not just vague? And is that because like I thought that's what you were saying wouldn't count for God?
Yeah, even if because if you talk to anybody in the streets, like yeah, there could be people that say that they don't believe in aliens, but they're
Well, no,
still
I would go a step further. The experts don't even have proof of aliens. But if that doesn't
yeah.
matter to you, I'm okay with that. So like if you're saying, hey, it doesn't matter if they believe him because they could be biased or they could be whatever, you could be right about that. But what you're saying is you have something that convinces you, and then someone else in the comment section will have a list of evidences that convince them of God. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is what is our standard that we would say is reasonable for everyone to accept? Because I gave lists of like the scientific examples I gave are verified by the science itself, right? It's verified by the peer-reviewed literature, it's verified by the experts, etc. Now, you don't have to accept those. I'm not saying that that's like the rule. What I'm trying to find is, do you and I have a shared common ground on a standard of evidence? Because if we don't, then we can't really get anywhere. So I
Okay.
used dinosaurs, I used the Big Bang, I used Andromeda, yeah, I used basic things. When it comes to extraterrestrials, like you said, most people that argue for that don't argue on the basis of proof, like you're saying. They argue on the basis of probabilities. But if you're
Okay.
saying you have proof that aliens exist, now you kind of sound like the Christians you're arguing against. You sound like you're the one that has the evidence, but the only reason everyone else doesn't believe it is because of conspiracy.
No, no, I understand that, but like, yeah, you can say that about anybody, to be honest with you. And I understand that you're trying to expose my hypocrisy, which I understand.
Well, no, actually, I'm trying
But
to appeal to some. I actually think your reasonings could be rational. What I'm trying to do is appeal to your rational
okay,
side
oh,
that
okay.
you, yeah.
As to why it is that I argue with Christians or
Well,
theists
no, I
in
understand
general.
why. I think I understand why. I would do it too. I'm saying you already have the mechanisms in your brain to reason this
Oh,
way
okay.
because you're doing it.
Yeah,
So what I'm trying to
yeah.
show you is those same mechanisms are used to reason to God.
Oh, okay. So you're trying to see where my my reasoning is.
Yeah, because like someone else could be, and maybe it doesn't matter to you, but someone else could be skeptical about the aliens, right? They're like, oh, there's no aliens. All the evidence is a conspiracy. People are,
Yeah,
yeah. So they could do that. There's no evidence. And you're like, so maybe you would say, well, that's okay. You don't have to believe in it, which, we could. But you're saying, hey, show me the evidence. So if someone said, show me
yeah,
the evidence, they could play the skeptic just like you could on God.
yeah,
But if we're saying, hey, let's actually consider it, the thing is, if God is real, God would not operate the same way that nature does. So nature operates according to laws of physics, according to the uniformity of nature, right? So it has things that we can build predictions and models on. God wouldn't operate like that. He would operate in a more metaphysical way or a more logical way, purely logical way. And so if that makes sense to you, I could appeal more to that side because that's actually what I prefer. I think science is useful and I think it's good. But the ones that persuade me personally more are the purely logical reasons. But they get really technical. And I've already noticed a lot of these concepts I've been appealing to you haven't heard of before. So I would have to like break it down really slow, which I'm okay doing. But maybe we would have to like kind of work one step at a time.
All right.
So, okay, let's look at it this way. I'm going to ask you one more question. It's like a name, so it's okay if you haven't heard of it. Have you heard of, what was it called? Modal logic. Have you heard of that before?
It sounds familiar.
Okay. It's been around for a while, so this is nothing new. Um, a long time ago I think the 1400s, there was a Catholic priest named Anselm, and he came up with this argument called the ontological argument. So the word ontology, ontos, means like being or existence. And what he tried to argue that God has to exist. And his argument was not very good, right? So everyone rejected it.
Use circular reasoning.
Right, he did. He used circular reasoning, and so his argument was rejected. Okay, fast forward to the 20th century, in the 1900s, another Catholic philosopher named Alvin Plantinga fixed the original argument to where it wasn't circular. And he used the newly discovered modal logic, which is a form of logic around possibilities and necessities. So the difference between that would be like something can be possibly true, like it was possible that, I don't know, Hillary Clinton won the election instead of Trump. Like that could have happened, but it didn't. Whereas it would not be possible for 2 plus 2 to equal 5. That would just be a logical necessity that it equals 4. It must equal 4. Okay, that's kind of the basic version of what that means. So what Plantinga did is he used the form of logic that explains that to fix Anselm's argument. If that kind of logical reasoning is more appealing to you, I have an argument that I think is better, that convinces me. But it's very technical, so I don't know how far we're going to get with that. I'm trying to think of some other one that might help. Do you have? I'm trying to see if Facebook has screen share. I think it does. Are you on a phone or on a computer?
I'm on my cell phone.
Cell phone. Okay, we don't have to worry about that then. I was thinking about doing a screen share and showing you the steps.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think I'll just try one more thing so I don't keep you too long. This one's going to be a more practical thing. And I didn't read all the comments, but someone probably tried this. It looks like most people are appealing to science. But do you have any strong moral convictions like about climate change or about politics or anything like that?
Mine is more of focused on human behavior and how we treat each other. That's my biggest one.
Would you say people that don't treat each other well, is that wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, if someone other than you thought it was right, how would you resolve that disagreement?
I would let them understand that they're not hurting people, they're hurting themselves. Like they're reflecting themselves and showing why nobody wants to be around them. Because how you treat others shows how you love yourself.
Okay, now if they said, but I don't loving myself is not loving myself is okay, that's not wrong. Like how would you convince them it's wrong?
Uh, what I would say is then you have to work on yourself then, because if you're telling me that it's wrong to do that, then there's something morally wrong with you, and you need to understand that that's not how the world operates. If you're a bully and an asshole in this world, it just goes to show that you need other people to validate yourself, and that's what you're doing. You need to find some intrinsic validation.
Okay, so maybe we have common ground here. Would you agree that moral truths, like whether something is good or wrong, would you say that that is objectively true no matter what other people's opinions are?
Can you repeat that?
So what you said, you talked about morality. Would moral
Okay.
truths, whether something is good or evil, right or wrong, would that be based on opinions or is it based on fact?
I'd say it's based on opinion.
Okay, so you had an opinion you just stated there to my hypothetical person objecting to you. So that's your
Yeah.
opinion, but if they have a different opinion, that's okay. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
So you're okay with people having different opinions about whether you should treat people well.
Yeah, because if they're not going to listen, how am I is what is it? Because that's their was it's something that they have to focus on. If I can't like if I nudge them, it's not going to do anything. It's a path that they have to take on their own.
Okay, then how could we have such a thing as justice if it's just opinion? Like, how do you have justice if there's only opinions? Like, you don't have justice on which ice cream tastes better. That's just opinion. So if you think morality is just opinion, is there such a thing as how do you enforce justice?
It sounds like you're twisting my words here because I didn't say because you're asking me if someone's doing something wrong and I told them to do it, but like but what you're leaving out is some ambiguous things about it, some nuances about it. That's what you're doing, and you're
So
elevating it
I asked you a
to a point.
question if morality was opinion or fact. You said opinion.
Yeah, and then you're trying to use that for justice, and I didn't say anything about justice.
But okay, this is the question. Can you have justice if morality is only opinion?
Of course not.
Okay, so you step 1 you said morality is only opinion. Step 2 you said justice can't happen if morality is only opinion. Did I understand that right?
No.
Okay, let's start
So
over.
what you asked me is if somebody is acting in a way that's terrible, is it opinion that they think that way? That's what he asked me. If
Yeah,
they think,
maybe I wasn't clear yet. Let me try again. Okay.
yeah,
So, I'm not talking about whether people believe it or not. That would be you can maybe use the word opinion. When I said opinion, I mean there's no truth
yeah,
independent of the subject. That's why we use the word objective. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
because yeah. So
Okay. So an objective fact would be dinosaur bones are real. A subjective fact is I think chocolate tastes better than vanilla. Do you understand the difference there?
yeah,
Okay. Are
yeah.
moral questions like the first one or like the second one?
Uh, let's go with the second one.
Okay. If it's the second one, can you still have justice? That was my question.
And are you trying to use that for subjective?
So, well, let me give you how I'm understanding it. There is no justice on whether chocolate or vanilla tastes better because it's just an opinion. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah.
Okay. So, can there be
So
so justice is a moral word, right? That means making right.
yeah,
That's what the word justice means, to make right.
yes.
So, can you do that if there is no objectively right? Because that's what you said. You said it's an opinion.
I didn't say that. You asked me if people were acting in a terrible way and they think that it's okay to do that. Is that opinion? It's opinion because they're telling themselves that it's okay to do that because that's their opinion. That's what I'm basing that off of. Now, when it comes to justice, we didn't talk about justice at all, or like we were just talking about immoral nature of a person, and
But you said that's just an
and
opinion, right?
it's just opinion if they think that. That's if they think that they're because that's the word that you used was think. If they think that, would that be opinion? Is what you said.
Well, so like if I could, the first example, dinosaur bones are real. If I believe they're real, you could call that an opinion. But the word opinion, I meant subjective, right? So dinosaur bones are not
Yeah.
subjective. They're real if I believe in them or not. But
Yeah.
but whether I like chocolate or vanilla has nothing to do with chocolate or vanilla. That has to do with me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Is moral beliefs like the first one? Are there truths whether you believe them or not? Or are they like the second one? It depends on if you believe them.
Oh. Oh, that's what you're asking.
Yes. It's
Okay.
objective,
Uh,
subjective.
oh, I think morality. I think it's both.
Well, everything in in a sense, so are dinosaur bones. Like if I don't believe them, yeah, I'm wrong, but I still don't believe them. But what I'm saying is,
Yeah,
are moral beliefs like that?
yeah, but you're creating a false dichotomy. Like you're trying to structure it only by that because when it comes to justice, it's really nuanced because it's there is a moral code, but the moral code is what's the word I'm looking for? It's based on rules that we design by ourselves because some things that because we talk about justice, some places they think is doing something is legal, but over here is illegal. Like some other countries, it's okay for you to beat your wife, but over here you can't beat your wife. Like
Okay, let's.
it's
That's a good
it's more
example.
nuanced than that.
Let's use
Yeah,
that
it's more
example.
nuanced than that.
So,
Yeah.
so they say other people say it's okay to beat your wife. We say it's not okay, and you're saying that those are equal, like chocolate and vanilla.
I wouldn't say that it's subjective. No, I'd say it's it would be what is it? I'd say that it's a gray area between the two.
Okay, let's see if we can work with that. So, you think there's a gray area and whether it's okay to beat your wife or not?
I'm not trying to say it like
Oh, okay.
that.
Maybe I
I,
misunderstood.
I'm just saying that you can't just put things into two perspectives because when it comes to justice, it's more than subjectivity and objectivity. It's more nuanced than that. It's based mostly on principles of culture, sociology, stuff of that nature.
Are those things well, so I know what you're saying that, but you're I'm not coming up with any of this, right? This concept has been in moral philosophy for millennium actually. Like this isn't some new thing that I came up with. So I'm trying to see how
Okay.
well you understand the philosophical debate on objective morality. Um,
Okay.
because you're saying it's nuanced, but and it's not that it's not nuanced, but the objective subjective distinction is not nuanced. And so what I'm trying to figure out is what you're applying to which. So subjectivity is not about belief. Belief is about each person believes something or they don't.
Are you
It's about
saying that? Are you saying that justice isn't nuanced?
so when you're using the word nuanced, I might be agreeing with it if you mean our ability to perceive properly what the correct moral thing is can be difficult. I agree with that. But I still think it would be true. It has to have objective truth to it to have justice. Otherwise, it's me enforcing my opinion on you. And we don't actually operate that way. We operate as if it's actually true. So if someone if someone in another country thinks it's okay to beat your wife, even if they believe it's true, I think it's still wrong, and I think they are wrong. That would be objective. Subjective would be say, well, in my opinion, it's wrong, but you have your own opinion. That's what subjective would be. And I'm saying, well, I'm asking you how you treat these moral situations. Because this is a common argument people have with whether or not you can have objective morality in a purely naturalistic world or if God would have to exist. This is an argument that's also millennia old. So I'm seeing how familiar you are with these concepts.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, they would fit both of those parameters.
Can you give me an example of something that is both objective and subjective to see if we're using these words the same way? Give me another example because we might be using these words differently.
Uh, because what is it? Let me think about this.
Because I like those things are opposites. I'm not sure we're using the words the same way.
Because when it comes to, because like when it comes to law enforcement, they use objective reasonableness, and what that means is you're you're using reasoning to your best of your ability to assess a situation and and treat it in a way to where you feel that it needs to be treated. And then when it comes to subjectivity, it's what is it? When it comes to criminal justice or like justice in general, let's go with just justice, not criminal justice. But with justice, it depends on culture. Like it depends on a culture, sociological. It has to do with how people do things, what they think is right.
So, but that's like the same with music and flavor and stuff, right?
No, I wouldn't say it's that. It's because with subjectivity, subjectivity is based on how they see it. Because it's subjective because it's different from what is objectively true. Like
Well,
like
that okay. Let's try that.
the thing with justice, like we could agree that it's every country has their justice. They do have some type of justice, like a police force or like a authoritarian style of defense. But then there's also the subjectivity as to what that certain justice or whatever they're doing is for, and how they do things.
I don't think we're using the words the same. So, objective and subjective have to do with the subject, which are people, and the
But it's
object, which is the content.
I know, but it seems like you're just appealing to definition more than anything
Well,
because
it's so we can understand each other.
no, I understand that, but I'm trying to show you that, or like I'm trying to explain to you that that using those it's more nuanced than that
Well, so
because
I
you can
hear you
say that
saying that. I hear you saying it's nuanced, but I'm not really hearing. It's like so you don't have to commit yourself to answering something. I'm trying to see
no,
where we are on this together, so if we have common ground or not. And I'm not sure if I can't tell because like you say yes and no. So
yeah, because if you think it's objective, it becomes dangerous because of the fact that you can use that against people because you're like this is how it is, but
we
when it
already do
comes to
that today. That's literally what everyone does.
I
You even do
know,
you do
but
that, not just me, not just us. You do that too.
what do you mean I do that?
So you don't okay. You say you enforce it on others, and you're telling me you like okay. Do you never vote? You're not in the military enforcing like laws and customs. These all go back. How you treat people is what morality is. So like if you saw someone getting mugged, you don't intervene, or if you saw a baby in danger, you wouldn't intervene. Like these are moral decisions on how we treat other
Yeah,
people.
yeah, I use my moral values
Yeah, so you're doing the
to
exact thing you just said would be wrong to do. People, yes, they enforce
I,
their moral beliefs on other people all the time. In fact, you
I,
almost couldn't have any culture without it.
I, what you
Does that make
what you're
sense?
doing is, but it sounds like you're making a straw man here because that's not what I said. You escalated it to that, and I'm trying to explain to you as to what is objective and how objectivity when it comes to justice and how that applies. That's all I'm explaining to
So
you.
you said if people believed justice was objective, what would be wrong with that? They would do something? That's what I heard you say. Maybe I misheard you. You
Uh,
said if they
we'd be
people
igno-
go ahead and
uh,
say it again so I make sure I heard you right.
so like when it comes to justice, it becomes dangerous when we ignore the power imbalance because there's a certain point where we do understand that doing something we do know that something's terrible
Whoa, whoa,
because
whoa.
there's people
I'm not going to let you have that. You said we do know something's terrible. How do you know? How do you know
it's
that?
because of how people react to stimulus. We know
It,
that it's terrible.
but is that just an opinion or is that actually true? That's what I'm trying to
That's
get to.
true. It's true because people do interact with stimuli. Like when it
Well,
comes
I
to
mean,
like
is what they're believing true? Is that just their opinion? So if their
we're,
stimulus tells them that something is evil or wrong, and they,
stimulus is your environment and how the environment interacts with you.
so okay, we're using a lot of words. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So you have subject and object. A subject would be a person, and an object would be something other than the person. So we have that's how we construct sentences. So you have person, subject, and you have object, dinosaur bone. Person sees dinosaur bone, that's their stimulus, and they believe dinosaur bone is real, or maybe they believe dinosaur bone is not real. Now, dinosaur bone is real, whether the subject observing the dinosaur bone believes it or not. That's what an objective truth is.
Okay.
The subjective truth is subject tastes vanilla and tastes ice cream. Those are objects. But the enjoyment of the flavor, how good the flavors are compared to each other, there's no object in reality that says this is better than this. That's purely within the subject's belief.
Yeah.
That's called
Yeah,
an
I know.
opinion or a subjective belief. Okay, so we understand these terms, right?
Yes.
Okay, now what we're doing is we're going to take that concept and then go to a moral question, like, is this wrong or is this good?
Okay.
The subject can believe it's wrong or believe it's not wrong. That's their belief. But is the truth of whether it's wrong or not, is that true outside of the subject, or is it only true inside of the subject? That's the common thousands-year-old moral philosophy debate that people argue, and there's multiple sides to it. I'm trying to see where you land. And I know you're telling me it's nuanced. The nuance that is true, and I agree with you, is it's not always easy to figure that out. You're right. But that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is a philosophical question: is there a true answer we can get to, even, or not that we can get to? Is there a true answer whether or not we can figure it out?
Okay.
That's what I'm asking you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so where do you land on that? And it's okay if you don't have an answer. If you're saying if you don't know, that's okay. I'm just asking you right now.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, I don't know all the correct moral questions, but I believe there is moral truth whether or not I'm aware of it. Otherwise, and the reason I believe that is because I don't think you can't believe it, because that's how we treat people. Like, I don't treat people as if their moral value is just an opinion. I treat it as if it's real. And I think what we do is what we believe. Like, for example, I don't treat ice cream flavor or taste in music as if it's some objective truth. So, yeah, we don't put, well, so the point is how we treat the beliefs, if this is making sense. Now, I know it's getting kind of late, so if you have to go, and I probably have to go in like 10 minutes, so I don't want to keep you too long. So just let me know if you have to go anytime. But that's kind of where we're at. Now, where this goes and how it connects to God is the traditional argument is that if morality is objective, then that wouldn't be possible on a purely natural world for a lot of the reasons you gave, which are people are just have their own cultures, etc. There's nothing else independent of the subjects. But if we're saying the truth is independent of the subjects, that's grounded in something that's not in nature. And that's what theists just call God. That's just a word. You don't have to call it that, but that's what they refer to it as.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's making sense. I know we kind of touched on a lot of points.
Yeah.
Well, if you want, I can let you go for tonight because it's almost midnight for me. But you can always message me, and if we want a second call, we can do that, or you can text me questions or points you have, and we can continue from there.
Yeah, because you got me interested because like when I was in the military, I did criminal justice because I was a cop, but that's the stuff that's the subjects that we actually cover is morality because we had to understand where we need to act and when not to act, and the only time that we were taught to act is if somebody is in danger, like if you know that somebody's in danger of their life and they're terrified, whether it's from somebody else or from like a fire stuff, something like that. That's when
Yeah.
to know when you need to act. But like it's also so like, but you can't say it's objective or subjective because what is it? Because what our moral codes like so because we do have people in our world that have narcissism or they just have like no empathy and with that in our world, like we don't know if that's right or wrong for them to have that, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
To have that
I know
that
what you mean.
because
If you
that's why
want,
it's nuanced because it's a matter of opinion because people just don't understand as to why in our thought process it's evil but like but what is it if they think like that we can't necessarily say what they're thinking is wrong because that's their own perspective type thing, you know what I mean?
yeah, and that touched on a lot of points. I actually, if you want to, if you ever get a chance, I sent you an introduction to the traditional concepts. It's just the intro Wikipedia article, but the sources that Wikipedia quotes are reliable. So you don't have to necessarily read the Wikipedia article if you don't want to. It's just a summary, but you can go to the sources it references. But the
Okay.
moral philosophy on subjectivity and objectivity, if you're curious on what we've been
Oh,
talking about, I
yeah.
linked
Oh,
it.
it's sweet. Oh, see, it's Wikipedia. Nice. A lot of people don't use Wikipedia. They think that it's not it's not reliable, but it does give sources. I used that when I was in college. I used the sources for Wikipedia.
Yeah, exactly. The sources are you can check those. That's mostly what I'm saying. But if you want to read the summary,
All right.
this subject is what I was talking about. And also, if you want, I can give me just a second.
But yeah, but you taught me a lot. I'm definitely going to have to look at how far the moon is and how old the Earth is now and all the other stuff because you what is it? I don't want you to think that this didn't go anywhere. Like I don't want it to seem like I was stonewalling you with questions and uncertainty. And I hope I didn't give off like I hope it didn't seem disingenuous and dishonest when I was doing that.
No, that's okay. I also sent the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on scientific realism. That first thing we talked about. So if you're curious
Okay.
about those things, there's a few sources you can read up on. And if you have questions, you can text me later. Maybe we can set up a follow up.
All right.
All
I
right.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thanks for talking. I'll
Thank you.
see you later.